All right, everybody. Welcome to Empty the Bench. That's Tom Albano. I'm Nick Morgeson. This is the first digital version of our show, Empty the Bench. And we're going to spend 20 minutes. 20 minutes is on the clock. And here we go. So, what's our topic today? Flip it up there.
Okay, so we have two MLB topics. We actually originally planned to only have this one, but there is some breaking news that we'll talk about after this. But of course, we would be remiss if we did not talk about the ongoing, and it feels like a slow slugfest of a pace at this rate, ongoing negotiations between the Major League Baseball and the Major League Baseball Players Association.
Right. And so there was a lot of negotiations that went down. So we'll update you from our last episode. There was a 76 game proposal, there was an 89 game proposal, then there was a 72 game proposal. We're going to break all that down for you in the next 20 minutes of time we have. So let's start with what was the last one we left off? 76. So there was a 76 game proposal, 75% prorated salaries, which we knew the players were not going to go for, playoff pool money, no draft pick compensations for signing players. The season would end on September 27th. Postseason was 16-team expanded playoff, which you and I discussed a ton, which we have a lot of problems with. Mm-hmm. All right, let's break this all down. So,
okay,
go ahead.
Okay, well, first of all, we knew this is something that wouldn't work because it's only 75% prorated salaries. Obviously, the MLBPA's whole case in all this is they have wanted the full prorated salaries, feeling like the one cut that they took already, the one cut that they took already before. MLB said we need to go back to the table because there's going to be no fans this season. The MLBPA, the players feel like they've already cut enough. The no draft pick compensations. Okay, so for those of you unaware as to how MLB and the draft all works, so what this means is like sometimes when another team signs one of the other team's big stars in free agency, I guess since we're talking about big stars and all the time, in this case, the team that loses that player is supposed to get a draft pick in return for the loss. And season would end September 27th. Well, we'll talk about it in the other proposals too, but Major League Baseball pretty much wants the regular season to end on September 27th. They don't want the playoffs stretching into November. They want it to keep it strictly in October. But 16 teams, I mean, so then more than half of the league is going to be making the playoffs.
It almost puts less of a premium as we talk about the playoffs. Over the years, we just expanded a couple of years ago to having a extra wild card, and you have an extra wild card game. And Tom, you actually asked me something interesting last night about how the whole wild card thing, do you consider that a playoff game? And well, in MLB standards, they consider it a postseason game. They treat it as a postseason game. It's usually on TBS or ESPN or MLB Network, and they treat it as a postseason battle. They have their biggest announcers who do the playoff game, so obviously it must be a playoff game. But you can almost say that this is very similar to what the NFL is doing coming up, and we'll have plenty of time to talk about that another time.
Right, but the MLB, I don't know if I had just missed this, like social media, but you had said, whether you had said or not, but we had discussed this. MLB was already looking into expanding the playoffs already, adding another wildcard team, and then doing this, what we have described as a reality show format where, okay, the top division winner, you're going to get a bye to the divisional round. The second best division winner, there's going to be 3 wildcard teams. You get to pick which of the wildcard teams you want to face.
It's reality TV.
Yeah. It's a game show.
Yeah, it's so bad. It seems like, and all the sports are having this issue right now where they're trying to decide, hey, what's the best way we can get people to watch? And I brought this up to the guys where the median age right now, I think for Major League Baseball is like 65 or 67 years old. It's like it's the oldest sport right now in all of the 4 professional sports.
Yeah. So
it's a phenomenon that the way this sport, everyone used to watch baseball. You would sit down, the family could watch baseball, anyone could watch baseball. And now with all the digital age, the NBA, the NHL, the NFL, there's a lot of issues going on with what is happening where you don't know what to expect. You don't know what's going to go on with the sport. The negotiations are terrible. And I don't know, Tom, this whole thing is so bad that I don't think baseball can recover from this whole thing.
No, it can't. It can't. And based on something else that we're going to talk about and all these other offers that were coming in, I don't see MLB playing this season. And like I said, like we said before in past episodes on the podcast form of this show, if this is the case, I don't see, there's no point in playing this season. But if there's no point in playing this season, baseball is going to take a reputation hit. So MLBPA, they felt like this was a worst offer. It shifted the emphasis. This is their defense. They shifted the emphasis on risk sharing in the postseason because players would only receive 50% prorated if there was no postseason. So this was not the offer from them. So now let's go to the second offer this week. An 89-game proposal from the MLBPA, 100% of prorated salaries. The expanded playoffs would be 2 years. The season would stretch from July 10th through October 11th, and the playoffs would go into November. Now, there is something to note from these negotiations. The MLB and MLBPA did agree to 2 years of expanded playoffs. But this goes back to what we talked about with the designated hitter previously. I don't understand how you can agree on certain things, but not on the rest. So it's like, I mean, I guess that's the reporters who are reporting, it seems like both of them are on the same page when it comes to these issues. But to say that they agree is kind of a stretch.
It is a stretch because, like I said to you, how can you agree to a money structure and not a game structure, or vice versa? How can you agree to a game structure and not have money? And this whole thing with the owners, where it's an owners versus an MLBPA situation, where we can't say, hey, guys, let's meet in the middle. Let's have points A and B, but we can't agree to C, D, E, F, G, and so on. So we're having all these rejections. MLB has this whole issue, or the owners, I should say, have this whole issue of, all right, we want our money. We are the billionaires who are putting in all their money, and we're not getting anything because we're not getting fans or concessions. The players are saying, well, I'm not going to play unless I get my money. The MLBPA is the worst. Originally, many years ago, I thought the MLBPA and the owners actually handled everything well because they knew how to handle their situations. But the MLBPA and the owners are now showing the deep, dark abyss of what the situation is.
It literally feels like nobody wants to come to the table and, like you said, and be in the middle, because now with this proposal, now the argument from the Players Association is a playoffs that starts in the middle of October and stretches into November. They won't have to worry about the competition from the National Basketball Association. The NBA, around that time, October 12th, that's the latest game we had talked about previously for game number 7 of the NBA Finals in their new format, dealing with the new normal. But MLB's argument is they want the season to end by September 27 because they don't want it stretching into October. And apparently the TV networks are in agreement with the owners that they also do not want the playoffs stretching into October. And pretty much the MLB owners after this proposal said, we're nowhere.
Right. And just the way the proposals and the way everything's going down, the other issues that people, Major League Baseball and the owners and the players are not realizing, you really can't play games past October. You're heading into the winter months. You're running into competition as well for the NBA, the NFL. You have all the other sports coming back. You could also throw in UFC and soccer and everything else. MLB is going to be lost in competition because they are not supposed to be playing past October.
Right. And I'll also add that I am for the players getting their whole, salaries, prorated salaries, getting as many games as possible. I want as many games as possible. I don't want a 48-game season, but the longer this goes, the less games you're going to have, because we have talked about this previously. If the games stretch into November or December, you're going to have to do one of these warm weather or neutral site grounds, whatever. And I mean, it's one thing to say Dodger Stadium, okay, we're not going to have an All-Star game this year. How about instead you host all 7 games of the World Series, a neutral site? I know you're not a fan of it, and I'm iffy with it, but we do it with the Super Bowl every year at a neutral site. But to say, okay, we're going to take this part of the regular season and all these playoffs, it's not going to work. It's also not like hockey where you can just pick an arena and say, okay, all you teams are going to go to this one arena. It's not like the NBA where you can just go to the wide world of sports. There's not a lot of logistics here that are working. And Rob Manfred said, we're going to play in 2020. There's a new offer coming shortly, but the players need to get off the 100% salary demand. But
not going to happen.
I was going to say, but working out all the logistics of everything, I just don't see it.
I mean, the whole issue of, first of all, the TV networks reportedly don't want to move. Sorry, you're not in control of the situation, TV networks. The sport is. Well, you're at the mercy of the sport. If they need to move their schedule, then the TV networks got to move. Now, the one thing I'll say about the TV networks is they have other sports they cover because you have multiple sports and contracts. But unfortunately, this is a pandemic year. You're going to have to readjust your schedules to figure it out.
I was going to say, do sweeps also play a role here? Because I think October is a sweep month, isn't it?
I think it is, yeah.
That's probably why they don't want it to move.
And the whole thing with Rob Manfred saying players need to get off the 100% salary demand, how about the owners need to get off their high horse and stop penny pinching when they are billionaire owners who have plenty of money? Get over it. It's ridiculous.
Like I said, if well, I don't know if I said this, but if the players are not willing to come off the 100% salary demand or the prorated salary demand, I should be more specific, and Major League Baseball is not willing to come off of the, it's going to cost us more to play games. Like, I know it's going to be a reputation hit. I know it's going to be a popularity hit, but then why are we even doing this? The negotiations feel like a sham.
Well, okay, so speaking of sham, the latest update, I think this is a sham, the latest proposal that...
The 72 games?
Yeah, so there was a 72-game proposal. I think that happened within the last day or so, and they put a 72-hour deadline, which I think was supposed to be up on Sunday.
So there's like 24 hours left in this deal.
Okay, so players would receive 80 to 85% prorated salary. Okay, here's the deal. Right off the bat, this is going to get rejected by the players because... I was going to say, I feel like maybe this should get us closer, but with the players wanting 100% of the prorated salary, this is not going to get us anywhere. Now, I heard on, because I listen to a lot of satellite radio for sports' sake, I was hearing that if you gave the players 100% prorated, but you're going to end up playing 48 to 50 games. And like you said, if we end up with a 50-game season, I can tell you right now, I could give two shits if we play a 50-game season, to be honest with you. It's not worth it. It's terrible. Like, you're gonna have to put a giant asterisk all over it. I was gonna say that's 100 games less than what we normally get. Over 100 games. It's less than a third of the season. We're talking about a 162 game season. Now, bear with us as fans because we knew we weren't going to get a 162 game season. It just was not possible. I was hearing a lot of this on radio that as soon as the players came back in a negotiation and said, let's counter with 114 games, I knew this was going to be a disaster and an issue going forward. Right, because 114 games, you would have to go back to that idea of we need constant double headers throughout this whole season. And at this rate, you're not going to get over 100 games. You're going to be lucky if you get to this 82 game demand that the players have, or the 89 game rather. But still, if you want more than half of the season, something needed to be done yesterday. Right. And like I said, if we get to Sunday and this doesn't get passed, I think we're going to end up with 50 games. And Jeff Passan, by the way, one last thing note here. He was on Get Up and he said that the MLB players feel bullied by the owners with all the stuff that's going on in past seasons with free agency and with the service time. The service time is a mess, but I think they made an agreement. I think the Players Association and the owners and Major League Baseball made an agreement that if we don't play, we still give the service time, which screws up. And you and I have especially talked about this, the Mookie Betts deal situation with the Red Sox and the Dodgers. What happens there? Do the Red Sox pay the money? I don't know. And then you're going to have all the guys who were probably going to get traded at the deadline for trade value are going to get away scot-free. It's not fair to the teams. So just looking at some of the numbers on the 72 game proposal, because I think some of these that you wrote down here are outrageous. Like, so Andy Martino, who's a writer for SMY, came out and said MLB owners believe an 82 game season with full prorated salaries and 2 years of expanded postseason does not pay off for them. 2 years of playoffs, not enough. I'm tired of this. The owners are trying to get the cake and eat it too.
I was going to say, if these reports are right, and in that the players would get, in this situation, the full prorated for what they make in a 50-game season, then that tells me the MLB owners just want a 50-game season.
Right, and it means they don't have to open their stadiums as much because it probably costs them whatever to open the stadium, which is ridiculous, like I said. I mean, here's the one thing I'll agree with the owners on, I can't believe I'm saying this, but you don't have ticket revenue, you don't have concessions, you don't have parking, you don't have tailgating. So that's the couple of things that I'll say I agree with on the owners. But at the same time, these players are putting themselves at risk to play.
At this rate, I know it, like I just said, over 80 games is going to work, but like 65 games, 70 games, get us somewhere in the middle of there. Get us 75 games if possible.
I don't think it happens. I don't see how it could happen.
I don't think any side wants to play baseball. I'm just going to leave it at that.
Right. And like I said, with the NBA is having a unique situation, which I want to compare to this because we're talking about a bubble situation. MLB is talking about a bubble situation, like you said earlier, where Arizona, Florida, Texas, I don't know about Texas because Texas just had a major spike in coronavirus after they had just opened up. And so did Florida. Florida and Arizona, I think Arizona had like over 850 cases in one day due to being open. All right, go ahead.
A report from Jeff Passan from a few hours ago, Major League Baseball Players Association will not accept the latest proposal from MLB ahead of Sunday's deadline.
That doesn't surprise me because I just the two sides are not in agreement. We knew this going in.
If an agreement cannot be reached, Commissioner Rob Manfred has the option to unilaterally implement a schedule as long as the pro rata agreement is honored. Owners are reportedly seeking. There you go. Owners are reportedly considering a 48-game campaign. What's the point?
This is what I said. Remember I said to you guys that the commissioner has the power to invoke a 50-game season?
Right. So, but what's the point of a 50-game season?
Well, as we're getting closer to the end here, I'll say this, that I think the owners, this could be a little bit of conspiracy theory, which I don't like, but it seems like it could happen. Maybe the owners are purposely doing this so that Commissioner Manfred invokes the 50-game season.
That's what I'm thinking.
And if that's the case, shame on the owners and shame on Rob Manfred, because that just means they didn't want to play really at all. It's terrible. It's ridiculous. It's garbage. We shouldn't play baseball. Unbelievable that the NBA, the NHL, and the NFL are all going to be playing.
And the UFC is going to have events. The WWE still having events. Here's another thing here. Another headline. MLB tells players during their latest proposal, they also submitted a 5-page thing that pretty much questions the union's bargaining tactics and tells players basically they were never entitled to payment during the pandemic.
Unreal. But okay, so as we wrap up here, we're going to have our first bench talk segment on Monday. You want to quickly, 30 seconds, just say what's coming up Monday?
Yeah, sure. So James Lynch from The Score, he's the senior MMA editor over there. He's going to be joining me at 1:30 on Monday. We're going to be talking all the stuff that's going on outside of the octagon. John Jones and George Masvidal, the big stars, having payment issues with the UFC. Conor McGregor and Henry Cejudo's retirements. And if we know Cejudo's a little bit relates to payment. Maybe if Conor's does as well. And what is the matchup that maybe brings Conor back? Because we don't believe his retirement, because it's the third time he's retired. We're going to talk about fair pay for fighters, how they can get unionized, if they can get unionized, how to bring the Ali Act into MMA, and all that. So it should be a fun conversation. I like James. He's a good guy, very smart with his MMA. So join us on Monday at 1:30.
Follow that. It'll be on our Facebook page live. That's our first bench talk segment with our guest. He's Tom about. I'm Nick Morganson. This is Empty the Bench Live. And we will see you next Saturday for our episode. See you, everybody.
See ya.